everybody, and welcome back to my channel. And today I'm going to be talking about the Reid autism diagnosis article in the Mirror newspaper. And the headline reads, Reid reveals autism diagnosis after lifetime of bullying for being different. Exclusive former MMA fighter and Celebrity Big Brother winner Reid has been diagnosed with autism at the age of 45 and has opened up about how it's made sense for a lot of things for him. So let's read part of the article which I've got here. It says, he has revealed how an autism diagnosis in his 40s has made him rethink his whole life after years of relentless bullying. The former MMA fighter says he's always felt different and has been treated badly because of it his entire life. Now that he's been officially diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome at the age of 45, he says that things make a lot more sense to him. That's also known, as people don't know, autism, Asperger's syndrome is also known as high functioning autism, which is what I'm diagnosed with myself. So he says that while he's always felt tough and been able to deal with whatever has been thrown his way, inside him there's a little boy that's always crying. I can kind of relate to that with having like the little girl that's always crying inside of me, because it's kind of, we go to our defense mechanism, which is to hide, to mask, to isolate, to kind of dig things down and down, deeper down inside ourselves. So yeah, I can understand. Also, he says, inner relief, in many ways it's a bit unnerving because it's coming to terms with new things, but it also explains so much. So again, it's about the sensory processing. It's about how he has to process it and move forward, and using coping strategies, how it's going to help him to move forward and understand himself from his pre-autism diagnosis to now. So it's just about how to look after yourself and to self-cope. Alex goes on to say he discovered he had Asperger's syndrome by chance after an encounter with a family with an autistic child. He was walking through a local park with his girlfriend one day when a young boy was running towards him and accidentally tripped him up. So Alex fell onto his knees to avoid hurting the child and got chatting with the parents. He ended up then shortly befriending the family, who have a few relatives with autism, and even raised money to help them to buy a support dog, or as we call it, a therapy animal. And the more he spent time with them, the more they began to notice some similarities. Alex explained, I was so friendly with the children, and the parents started to notice traits in me. They saw that in interviews I can sometimes hold it together, and then I can completely fall apart. They said they thought that I was autistic. I've always thought of autism as being like Rain Man, and that wasn't me. But understanding it now more makes sense. My friends, the Boyce family, suggested I had an autism test, and I came up as significantly autistic. So yes, a lot of autistic people, like I said, they do mask their struggles, they do mask the communication issues to a point where we learn to self-cope, we learn to mimic other people. So like for me, I learned to mimic other females so I can fit in and that I don't appear as odd or withdrawn or aloof or difficult or argumentative, that kind of stuff. And in a while it becomes exhausting because this constant mask we have to do all the time. It's a constant thing of having to go, oh, nothing's wrong with us, like we're not struggling, like no, like we can't set this up, this mask, so it's just like, oh, everything's good, woohoo. No, it's not. So I can understand where he says Alex's diagnosis has helped him understand his reactions to certain things and how he hides beneath a mask to cope when he feels bullied. He said, I've achieved so much and I feel like I could cope with anything. I can relate to him again with that, because coping with the world and coping with adjusting to it in a world that doesn't fit us and a world that doesn't really accept us, it's learning to self-cope and learning to put strategies in your way, like using sensory aids or using other therapy techniques like talking to people or doing social media postings, like making blogs, that kind of stuff. And he goes on to say, I've been so horrifically bullied throughout my whole life. I was the kid in school who asked the questions no one else would, and I'd be laughed at. I was the kid that the teacher would say had to try harder, and they just simply didn't understand it. So again, that comes down to lack of awareness. It comes down to lack of understanding on autism, because back way before where we are now, a lot of people didn't understand what autism was. It wasn't picked up in the media until the 1940s. So again, we've all had to adjust. We've all had to learn to cope with different things, and we've come a long way with the education service. Like, they do understand autism now. There is a lot more materials and resources there to help autistic people, so I can understand why he said he felt like he wasn't understood, because again, it's learning to mask. So yeah. And it says, I put on all these masks to cope and protect myself, and created all these different personalities. I'm an actor, and I'm great at acting because I can pretend to be somebody else. Again, it comes down to masking. Like, when we're not coping or we're not having a good day, it can come down to us putting our defences up and going, nope, nothing's wrong with us. Like, you know, it's all good. There's nothing absolute wrong with us, and we're all good. And yeah, when actually deep down inside we're actually struggling mentally and emotionally and physically. Like, for me, I'm just like, leave me alone, I don't want to talk to anyone, just go away. Like, you know, I kind of just try and push it off. But yeah, but he says, but ultimately deep down there's a little boy crying and not liking it. I'm soft, but I can really tough on, yet have to be. Exactly. We can defend ourselves, we can speak up for ourselves, we can make people aware that we're not happy with certain things. And the problem is, a lot of people think, oh, you're just autistic, like, you'll do as you're told, you'll listen to us, and you'll do as we tell you to do. It's like, actually, no, I actually won't do as I'm told. Like, I'm very opinionated, I'm very strong-headed, and I like that in myself. I like to be tough. And Alex goes on to say, I teach martial arts, which I'm learning more and more about autism and what it means for him. He's hoping his diagnosis can encourage others who feel the same way to be tested, in case they have undiagnosed forms of autism. So again, it's pushing that awareness and say, hey, if you suspect that you're on the spectrum or you think you may have autism, here is the people that you can go to. So what I will do is, at the end of this video, I will link down below my local service, so that if you're in my area, you can contact them and talk to someone. So he's also said, one of the other things that I found is people use the phrase high functioning autism for me, but it just doesn't work like that from what I've started to learn. So yeah, everybody is different. Everybody has a different diagnosis spectrum. So you can go from being low functioning to high functioning. Again, it shouldn't be about the labels. It should be about how we see the world and how we feel comfortable self-identifying. Whereas for me, I do identify as high functioning because that is my diagnosis. That is what I got diagnosed with officially. So I'm proud to say that. And then he goes on to say, it's also like the stereotype. It's not like you're a little bit pregnant. You either are or you either aren't. It's the same with autism. You either are autistic or you're not. So I can get why he's saying that in that aspect. There are different scales of autism, but you're still autistic. Yes, again, it comes down to the levels and the different labels of autism. Like, for me, I know I'm high functioning. So everybody on the spectrum has different needs and severities and levels and different coping strategies. So again, I can understand why he says that on that side of things. And he goes on to say, at some point, life can become almost impossible, and everyone's triggers are different. So again, for me, it's high-pitched noise, it's different smells, it's crowds, it's people talking loud. Like, I just can't cope with it. So again, he has got that bit right. Everybody is different on the spectrum. And it can become impossible when you're constantly surrounded by all the people, all that noise, all that smell. And he goes on to say, there's a scale, but you can't say some people are more autistic than others. Absolutely right. This point is so bang on point. Like, he's saying there's a scale. You can't always say that some people are more autistic than others. No! Because every autistic person is valued and respected and independent and individual. I'm different from Alex Reid. Alex Reid's more obviously high functioning than me, but I'm still high functioning. I still have autism, so I still matter too. So it's not just about saying that everyone that you meet with autism is the same, because he has clearly said here is that everybody on the spectrum is different and everyone's triggers are different, and that we're all on a scale. He says, but everyone has different coping mechanisms, and there's a time where you won't function, and that's what I'm learning to understand. So when there he's talking about meltdowns, he's talking about feeling overwhelmed, he's talking about having to mask, and he says, you learn how to hide it, and being so horrendously bullied throughout his life has now made sense. Again, this comes down to masking, because When you're getting bullied, you believe it's your fault. You believe you're the one that caused it. You believe that you're the one who's worthless and like a piece of shit. So basically, when you are getting bullied, people think, oh, well, you deserved it, you know, you triggered it, and you wound people up, and you said something to irritate them. It's like, well, actually, no, I didn't. It's not just that I triggered them, but sometimes it's how people see me and how they miscommunicate with me. So he says there are times when I'm not able to hide. Sometimes I really struggle and it's like torture, but you just have to grin and bear it. Exactly. Because being a social media person and being a YouTube content creator is two different things. Like, so social media is one angle of my work, and yes, I can mask on that and I can learn to identify with it and work with it. But at the same time, being on YouTube is for awareness. It's spreading that passion and that awareness of what I live with to help people understand what I go through on a daily basis. So again, Alex has hit this nail on the head. Like, he's definitely hit that on the head for sure. And he says, Alex often feels like things he says in interviews can be misconstrued, misconstructed, and feels like his autism is helping him understand why. So again, it's about people misusing our words or manipulating our words for their own agenda. And a lot of people have done that to me in the past. I'll say something and then they will go and misuse it or misquote it and be like, oh, well, Gemma said this, when actually, no, I actually said something totally different. So again, it's about misquoting and mistrusting people. And like Alex says here, it's like I haven't got a filter. It's innocence and naivety more than anything. So again, it's about that we tend to have not a filter, like me and Alex and many other people on the spectrum. We don't have a filter. I'm very much about what I say is what I say. I don't really give a damn about how I come across. And what I say is passion. It's encouragement. It's my strength. It's what I live with. So again, it can come across as being naive. I totally get that point. So I don't blame Alex at all for saying that. And then we're on the last bit of the article now. I just wanted to kind of go through this article and kind of give my opinion. Social situations are very overwhelming for those of us on the spectrum, because what was expected for us in the appropriate level of behaviour and communication and the boundaries. He says, I've had to learn in social situations how to just simply shut up. My problem is, in the celebrity world, I've overshared, and I've been starting to realise that it's inappropriate. Yes, again, it does come to too much information, because when you're autistic, you sometimes don't know the line of where to share and where not to share. So again, it's about trusting that person's not going to stab you in the back, or that they understand why you're sharing that information with them. So again, it's that personal boundary of what's appropriate and what's not. So I've had that trouble, and I still have it a little bit, to the point where people will be like, oh, Gemma, you know, don't share that. Like, you know, you don't need to be talking about that. So I can understand why Alex says that. And he says, I've realised that you don't need to always overshare. As I've got older, I've suffered enough through the pain and torment. Exactly. Again, it's the bullying. It's the social media pressure. It's the family bullying. It can be sibling bullying. It can be friends bullying. It can be teachers. It can be carers. It can be people who you're in your life constantly who just want to pick on something. And again, Alex has hit this nail on the head. He says, I've always wanted to fit in. Even when I was in the house, I didn't want to go in because I didn't want to show myself that much again. It's the fear of failure and disappointment and feeling like you've let people down and that you're a burden. And I totally get that, because I go through that myself all the time. I constantly feel like I'm a disappointment to many people, and I feel like I'm constantly this person who has to be like, oh, we have to be careful, Gemma, you know, like, don't tell her too much because, you know, she won't understand. And autism, no. Like, that's why we do what we do. Like, he says, I didn't want to be famous for just the sake of being famous. I wanted to achieve something, have people be proud of me, but I was told I had to go in there to people. This is where he's talking about the Big Brother house, which is one bit that I left in for communication reasons. He says, I didn't want to be famous for just the sake of being famous. I wanted to achieve something and have people proud of me, but I was told I had to go in there so people could see the real me. People misconstrue everything that I say, and if people see the real me and they can understand what I'm about rather than attacking me, that's the sad thing. I've never been in a clique, and I don't want to be, Reid, but part of me always has, and that has caused me deep pain. But now that I can understand myself a bit more, I might have a more harmonious, quiet life. Being part of a group or a pack you've got a better chance of survival. But sometimes when you're part of that pack, you can get bullied. And that's why I've never been part of a clique or a pack. So again, it's about that insecurity and that mistrust and feeling like you're alone. No one wants to know you. No one understands you. You're not worthy. You're not able to fit in. You're not trusted. And I get this all the single time. Like, I have this day in, day out with people who want to make fun of me and stuff. So I hope you've enjoyed my own opinions and my critiques of this article, and I will see you again soon. Bye!